Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 7th of February, comes to you from London. I'm going to look mostly at energy today, but we'll just have a quick look at what's going on the dollar. We're waiting for that move. Notice how we got that move on non-farm payrolls. US interest rates set to stay higher for longer, stronger dollar, but we are just seeing that pull back a little bit. That means that the euro is looking a little bit stronger on that dollar pullback, so that's quite key there. A look at Bitcoin. I've had some people ask me about Bitcoin. Oh, remember, always ask me if there's anything you want me to cover. I'm happy to cover if you just put it in the comments. And please click like and share these videos. I'm grateful for any feedback. And so here we're looking at Bitcoin. Upside targets, those are the train tracks that we look for with the targets. 2 targets is better than 1, so we've got these train tracks pointing up the hill. So that's really quite key, but we have got a new little downside target, and we are just testing the cloud here on the daily chart. This is my medium term, remember. This is the short term 60-minute chart. Upside target, new downside targets yet to be activated. They'll turn from orange to red once we move below the thrust level. So that's quite key, just waiting to see if those targets activate. But for the moment, this is the target that's in train. If you're trading crypto shorter term, look to your 1-minute charts, your targets there. Looking at the Nasdaq, waiting for this upside target to be activated on the Nasdaq. We've got the daily target that's been activated, a massive new target higher. We're just waiting for this breakout of the range here, and that's really what we're waiting for, and that will activate this upside target as well, and that will then turn to green because the target is then active. So it's just understanding that difference between activation. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute. I had a couple of people ask me about gold. For the moment, this downside target is dominating in the short term, taking us back below 2,000, and we are below the cloud. So the short term picture is one that is more and more bearish, but the medium term picture is bullish. And of course, if we look at the long term picture for gold, we see here we've got very big upside targets on the weekly chart, so that's quite key. Anyway, I'm going to spend more time on energy today, so let's look at the energy mix. We start with Brent Crude. Of course, we put our report out this morning to clients, and the 1-minute charts have been generating targets since then. But looking at the daily chart, this is the medium term. We're waiting for this upside target to be activated. That would give us 2 targets, train tracks again, and then we're seeing here this downside target is now not really in train. We've got a new upside target and we're crossing above the cloud. So you can start to discount this downside target because this is the latest target. That is now the new target to be looking for. And so we are crossing above the cloud there. So that is looking more interesting. And if we look at WTI, we actually have activated 2 upside targets. Again, we've got the train tracks, so starting to look more bullish on the short term. The picture is changing effectively. Carbon emissions. Now, this is a very interesting situation playing out here. On the long-term chart, we've still got these downside targets. You can forget that upside target. That's now history, and it's all about these downside targets below the cloud, pointing to 58 and 44. Now, you can ignore the 44 target because mathematically we are going to hit 58 before we hit 44. So don't get too excited about that downside target. It's just confirming the downward pressure on carbon emissions. And of course, if we fall through that 60 euros, that's going to be pretty scary. Now, if we look at the 60-minute chart, and what we see going on here is a real tussle. We come up through the cloud. We're now fighting. We've got a descending, a symmetrical triangle building where the price is narrowing. And that's quite good when we get that narrowing of price, because that means that something has got to happen. When you see these narrowing and a consolidation pattern, it does mean that we are going to get a break, and it will be quite dramatic because prices have squeezed for a couple of weeks here on the 60-minute chart, and now we're waiting to see. We're waiting for an upside target to be bullish. We would be bullish above 65 and ideally 66. We want to see a higher high above that 66 level to know that this is a reversal. But we've got that daily targets to think about. That's really still saying downward pressure, and then of course, this could easily be a consolidation pattern. Consolidation patterns occur more frequently than reversal patterns because the trend is your friend. We go sideways and then the next leg down. So I'm not calling it yet. We've got to wait for the break. But for the moment, this is a one to really watch. The downside targets have been activated. Remembering the bold targets are the ones that are still in trade. The less bold ones are the ones that have been met. So, and then the orange ones are the ones that are activated. So that one will turn green if we move above the thrust level, and this one will turn red if we move below the thrust level. That's how the targets work. So really quite key there on emissions, and certainly one to watch. And in fact, we could actually go to the 1 minute chart on emissions, and we see here actually today. So this is yesterday's targets. Targets given in the morning. Targets met in the afternoon. Downside target this morning that was actually exceeded. A couple of new upside targets. So right this minute we're seeing emissions heading towards those targets, is kicking in. So really quite interesting there. The 1 minute charts, if you're trading gas, power, carbon, you really want to be looking at these 1 minute charts. This is on Icon data. You could easily be running on Bloomberg data. And of course, Trayport data, if you've got Trayport, and we are compatible with over 30 different data services, but here I'm just running on Icon. So really quite key seeing those new targets kicking in. So if we then look to gas, and something really interesting on the gas market, the targets actually I use just slightly different levels, because what we see is the targets on gas prices are met more quickly. So I've got a slope of 0.5 to 1. So that means 1 unit, which is 0.5% of the price, is met every half a unit. So every half a day, and here every half an hour. So if you want to understand the targets, just message me and I'll send you the videos which explain how these factors work. But you'll notice here how in August on the daily chart we had these upside targets. It was met sooner than the target was predicted. It was given back here. It was predicted to have happened in November. It ended up happening in October. And so we moved faster. And then here are these downside targets, and now we've got a tussle going on the daily on TTF. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, really interesting here, the same tussle that we've been seeing with carbon, and we just talked about that chart. We're seeing here on the 60-minute chart how we've got this waiting for this upside target to be activated. We've got downside targets. It's a real consolidation pattern, and we've got to really wait for the break. Now, the key thing is if we look at the 1 minute chart, and this is the very short term on the 1 minute chart, we see here that actually we've got upside targets just been generated today. So this was the target this morning, and then we've got new upside targets. Those are kicked in. Notice how that target was given at 9 o'clock. It was projected to be met at 11 o'clock. It's kind of where we've got to. We've got a new upside target. So it's all up the hill. If you're trading gas, these are the targets that you want to be looking at. So really interesting, because we'll expect to see resistance at that level. I can easily put the levels on the chart, and we can see here that was the intra-minute high. So there might be resistance around 29.20. That's near the target. So that's the trade that's occurring at the moment. So really quite interesting. We can do the same for MBP. This data is pulling in again from Icon. It would be pulling off Trayport or Bloomberg. Doesn't really matter what you're using. And we see here on MBP, these are the targets, this 0.5%, half unit again. Notice how the upside targets are met. Downside targets, tussle going on here, targets in both directions. The same here, we're in this real range. But again, if I go to the 1 minute chart, we see here we've got these same upside targets that we're seeing for TTF, and there's the range to be met. So really quite interesting there as well. Now, lastly, we'll look at power. So this is really key, what data you use. I'm here using Icon, and again you can go, I tend to use shorter term targets on power, and if you're using Montel, there's another feed that we're compatible with. You can use Montel. Notice how the downside targets are met, really quite key there. I use the 10-minute charts on power because the 1 minute charts are not granular enough, although this is EEX data, they may well well be sufficiently granular on your Trayport data. But that's how you use the targets. Remember, you've just got to keep an eye on what's going on those different time frames: daily, longer term, medium term, short term is 60-minute, and then the 1-minute charts. They're going to be really quite key, and it's very interesting to see that this morning that we're seeing that on TTF. It's really quite fascinating that we're seeing these targets kick in. Just keep watching the targets. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Bye for now.